Greetings, everyone. Another monthly show of For the Record, St. Albans Today. Thanks for joining us. It's a live show here on Northwest Access TV, at least if you're watching us live. I'm your host, Richard Copperthwaite, and again, thanks for being with us. Love to get some phone calls. 528-5315 is our call-in number. And we have a bevy of guests, St. Albans Mayor Tim Smith. To my right, Carrie Johnson, the St. Albans Town Manager. Bill Nihan, the St. Albans Town Select Board Chairman. Alan Mashtare, the St. Albans Town Public Works Director. Thanks for joining us, folks. Mayor, I hope you're not feeling too outnumbered or anything tonight.
No,
I told you in the future, maybe you can make up for this. Happy to have more city folks on in the future. Certainly we'll pay a fair amount of attention to the proposal for the St. Albans Town Public Works Garage. But again, this show coming just about a month before March Town Meeting, coming up again just about a month down the road. And budgets have been finalized, and I guess let's dive into it. And again, the Public Works Garage getting a lot of attention in St. Albans Town, came up for vote a few years ago and didn't fare well. And Bill, obviously you're hoping for a better outcome this time for
results,
town officials. And again, it's certainly a different situation. Again, about a $3,844,000 proposal to construct a public works garage and salt shed on town-owned land on the Brigham Road. And a key difference with a few years ago, again, this would be entirely funded by the local option tax or close to it.
Yeah, that and the state grant for the
State grant for the salt shed. So again, we're talking no local property taxes.
Absolutely correct.
So is there, can there be any doubt? I don't mean to jinx you guys, but I guess my question is, how could this possibly not get approved?
Yeah,
Or was that the kiss of death you don't want to hear?
If somebody runs away with the local option tax fund, we won't have any money. But barring something like that, we're in good shape.
You're running into any of you folks, any criticism of the project? I think, Bill, you were a critic the first time around. You thought it was too expensive a project. You're comfortable with this version?
Absolutely.
You're running into any criticism?
We haven't heard a lot of criticism, but I guess we didn't want to take anything for granted. So we focused with that infrastructure committee a year ago on need. Was there a need? And we have a few pictures we're going to show you today, but maybe I could get into that
Might
video
as well get
now.
into that video right now.
We only have 4 main talking points. One of them is we're proposing to move it, and we believe it needs to be replaced. And this is an example, our video, of the existing facility. I think I'm going to hit play. There we go.
There we go.
So the existing facility's been in use for a number of decades. You're seeing that storage unit, as we call it, is holding our signs. The building does have is in disrepair. Alan, you could maybe point to what's stored in those lots.
Put it on hold.
This is part of the old structure that's down there, which was originally the fire station and the DPW years ago. This is in the newer shop, but as you can see, we're limited on space. When all our vehicles are in, if it's a below zero day, there's not much room to work on your equipment. That's behind the salt shed, showing we're roughly about 60 feet away from the edge of the water. Lake Champlain's right there, so the key component is to get the salt shed off of the lake and clean up the bay area a little bit.
So one of the things we're concerned about is need. We're trying to focus on that need. But as we alluded to first, because I think needing it is one thing, but the next question is, what are you proposing? And so what we're proposing, we have a conceptual plan that looks a lot like this slide that shows the bays of our garage, and funding being the key point. I'll circle back to that. We're not going to increase anyone's taxes, and we're proposing to use the grant funds to build the salt shed in the back, and in the foreground, the garage. That also includes a wash bay. So one of the other key points we were talking about is we don't have a wash bay at our current facility, and we believe it will extend the life of all of our equipment, as well as, and this hasn't been really highlighted yet, but provide a water filling station for our fire department apparatus at the new wash bay. So this time of year, ponds, lakes are frozen. We don't have any hydrants in that part of town. So it's kind of exciting for us. We're pretty excited about the project. We worked through a good deal of value engineering, which is engineering speak for how can you do this project at the most economical way. So we did not take anything for granted, even though we do have the money in the savings account.
Ellen, I know you're gonna miss if this gets approval and you move on to new digs, a new site. I know you're gonna miss your current site big time, but you think you'll get over that in a while?
I think I'll get over it. I'll miss seeing the water and the boats going by, but seeing as we got to work all day, I guess it's all right to be away from it.
But again, as a PW director, early time, as you see it for a new, you really have some shortcomings with the current site?
We do. We definitely need the new garage, just for the equipment, keeping it all under one roof, keeping it secure, safe, clean, making it last a lot longer, more workable, safer. So it's definitely a need, and this is a good project that should last way into the future of the town of St. Albans.
Yeah. Again, Bill, you were a critic last time around. Why do you feel like, I guess, much better about this one?
My last, excuse me, the last time I was critical of what I considered a massive meeting room, which was completely unnecessary. So we've scaled back to what is needed to run the business, break room, and things like that. So there are no frills on this thing. This is a no frills project, and you're getting good value for money. We need the space. We need to operate. We need it for safety, and we need it for future growth. I mean, there's just no room at the current town garage. It's the current square footage of the buildings down there is just about 10,000 square feet, and we're so cramped. And this new one for the garage is 18,000. So it's a significant increase, but it will see us long-term into the future, and it's expandable. So
And again, you're on town-owned land on Brigham Road, and Carrie, how much land would this take up?
We have 73 acres there, and this takes up a little over 5, I believe they said. So at most we might, I mean, we have a good deal of expansion possibilities. And for operations, I guess I just want to show a close-up of the salt shed.
Yeah.
They're not terribly exciting, but for us, this helps us operationally with additional capacity to store salt, because right now we're using it almost as fast as we're getting it. And we have this operational, I guess, just inefficiency.
Yeah,
Alan can
the
explain
old
it
salt
better.
shed we have, the roof in it is low, so most of your loads of salt come in on tractor trailers. So they're unable to back all the way into the old existing salt shed, so a lot of the salt ends up being dumped right towards the doorway and we push it in. So creates a runoff of salt towards the lake, but also a waste of salt when you're pushing it in.
Time to just move it all. I mean, we use 1,400 tons of salt a year.
Really, 1,400 tons?
And we've been able to lower that a little bit by use of brine, but it's still a lot of movement, or touching it twice. You don't need to touch it twice. In this facility, those large trucks, that truck that was in our picture is not an example of how we normally get salt. So it's just a lot of movement, needless movement of product.
If you get approval, and again, town meeting day not far away, Tuesday, March 5th. If you get approval, time frame on this, you'll move on this in the spring. We're talking move on this pretty quickly.
Yes, that's our
Right.
plan. We're already seeking some permits. We've been working with some local vendors, Cross Consulting, and we hired Connor Contracting to be our general contractor. Harrison Concrete's also one of the local vendors, so we have been getting ready, hopefully, to move as early as April.
And how long a construction time frame?
They anticipate the end of 2019, early 2020 for the garage itself. The salt shed might take a little bit longer because with grant funds comes a lot of strings. So it'll take a little longer, maybe even up to a year longer to actually have us fully operational in the new salt shed.
Yeah. And if you do get approval, certainly more attention will be given to what to do with the current site.
Yeah, that's our last, so we, thank you for bringing that up. So we expect that the future use of that vacated property will be determined by taxpayers and the public.
Yeah.
We certainly, we don't expect to know exactly what we're gonna put in that spot, but gotta believe there's a better use for it than a salt shed and an industrial commercial use.
Yeah. Tim, looking at the town's proposed new public works garage, make you think anything for the city? Could that something that the city might look into at some point down the road?
It is, there have been preliminary discussions
Yeah.
about what we do with the one on Alder Street,
Yeah.
and what we, similar to what these guys have done. I just want to point out, and I think Bill would agree with me, I have issue with Carrie bringing technology. Bill and I have never used technology before, and I think she just raised the bar for our future show, so I have
Yes,
concerns
yeah.
about that.
And I can tell you very quickly,
Video.
you're light years ahead of me. So I think you're in tough shape. I'm in real tough shape.
I had a question for Alan, actually. This sort of came up with me today. So what's the status of sand? We talk about salt a lot, but is with the whole stormwater runoff and MS4 and all that, is sand sort of going by the wayside when we talk about?
It is. The state's pushing for a lot of the salt because you get a lot of phosphorus from your sand going into your ditch lines and in your catch basins and such.
Is that right? So sand is looked upon much more negatively than salt then, huh?
It is.
Carries everything on the road with it when
Really?
it leaves the road.
Yeah.
I had the discussion with my mailman about sanding the sidewalks, and I said, I think it's a catch-22 that
It is.
you can't be, and I remember reading that someplace, but I just wanted to confirm that is, sand is not a,
And it
because
seems.
sand,
oh,
sorry, Carrie, but the sand and salt mixture goes away as well. I mean, that used to
it's
be.
still being used limited.
Right.
I mean, when the temperatures are way too cold, you kind of got to use it. But that's why the brines are real important. It kind of activates the salt quicker to use. The other big thing is an issue in the area is there's starting to be a shortage of sand.
Oh, sorry.
So it's getting harder to get good sand for spreading on the roads.
Are there some negatives with salt? Seems like there's some negatives with
Yeah, you would-
anything.
you would think
Obviously,
so.
some negatives.
You're always going to find a negative. Brine gets a big beat down because of cars rotting out and that. But there's companies out there coming up with different agents all the time. So I know out west they use a product made out of beet juice that works on the roads. So I think in the future you're going to see something that's going to be a little better for the vehicles and runoff versus brine.
How are you doing so far? Out of curiosity, we're kind of midwinter. If it makes anybody feel better, we're just over 2/3 past the meteorological winter, the 3 coldest months of December, January, and February. As we have freezing rain, sleet in the forecast. But how are you doing with your stocks? Are you about where you'd expect to be at this point of the winter?
I'm actually a little low, I would say right now. The unfortunate thing is with a lot of the state bidding on your salts and that, we were unable to fill the shed last year when normally we would top off for the summer. So I started the season off having to spend a lot of our budget getting stocked up to where I need to be. So it's a battle right now to stay replenished, so I have plenty of product on hand.
Yeah. Tim, how's the city faring these days?
I don't have an indication on that. I'm just thinking with the amount of freezing rain and the warm and the cold, I would think that we, like the town, are probably below where we'd want to be.
Yeah. Speaking of public works, have we got a new public works director, an issue in the city in recent months?
Still vacant right now.
Yeah.
I know Dominic had another conversation a week ago, this past Friday, one that he was very hopeful for. So right now it's still status quo.
Is that his appointment or a city council appointment?
He will do all the vetting the process, and then he'll bring it to the council.
Yeah. So hopefully pretty soon you may have a new PW director.
We would hope so. Yep.
Marty Manahan still hanging in as the interim.
Marty's still active,
Yeah.
totally engaged, doing a great job. So.
Yeah. Carrie, any more slime video, whatever you want to show? Or any
Well, I have
other
one
issues?
quick one I'll highlight, which is our overall site plan. We actually have gone to our development review board, and what this shows, just for a little indication of where it is, because I actually talked to the Rotary Club yesterday, and one question we failed to address immediately was, where is Brigham Road? Not everyone knows where this property is. So if you're going down Lake Street towards where we currently are, on the right is a road that'll take you on Brigham. You go north on Brigham till you reach the train tracks, and our 73-acre lot is right after the train tracks on the right-hand side. And this the left border of this picture is Brigham Road. The bottom is are the railroad tracks, and we're gonna.
You need the cursor.
Yeah, that's true. I can do that. And this is where the garage would go, with the salt shed behind. This last little out building is the wash bay. So it's going to be a drive-through wash bay so that the fire department can use it, and our DPW can use it as well. So this is with some thought. A lot of thought went into that project, and we're hoping the taxpayers approve it.
At this point, you've got a site that you're looking for a new town hall down the road. I would assume there was some thought given to the Brigham Road, the town-owned property on Brigham Road for a new town hall in the future. Did that get some consideration?
It did. The infrastructure committee that looked at the Department of Public Works, or DPW as we seem to call it more than not, looked at this, but thought the town hall should be maybe in a more central location. I think if we get approval for this and go forward, we're going to have some more public conversations about finalizing the site for the town hall. We tend to want it to be where people work, live, drive by. It's a municipal service. So we're hoping it can be in a more populated area. This is already an industrial type area with the railroad tracks there. So we've had one neighbor come forward. They were amicable, realizing they live near the tracks. Their only big concern was we're not going to light it up like daytime all 24/7. You know, they wanted to understand what our lighting plan was. So we're going to work with them on that.
And Bill, there's been, we talked about it on the show, another entity still interested in some of the land on Brigham Road?
Yeah, we've been talking to a couple of folks who have showed some interest along the railroad tracks, and that's still very much talking stage. So there's nothing firm or not moving. We're just waiting for them to come back to us and to carry on the conversation.
While we're talking public works, I'd be remiss if I didn't mention an issue about public works salaries. Seems like I've been reading something about this lately. Is this issue nailed down, Carrie? Again, there was concern on the part of, I think, yourself and some folks at the town public works department salaries weren't up to snuff, concerned that you'd maybe have, but just not competitive salaries. Can you get into that a bit?
I mean, I think it was pretty well reported, but I mean, Alan and I had some concerns as we were starting to see fewer and fewer applicants applying for our vacant positions.
How big's the department, Alan or Carrie? How big's the department?
We have six
Six
plus
people?
Alan.
Yep.
Six plus Alan, okay.
Which is going to allow us, for a long time we had five, and in case people didn't notice that change, we really pushed it because in the summertime and in the wintertime, you have vacations, holidays, sick, and if anyone's absent, our plow routes take 2.5 hours. You don't want to change that level of service for our customers or our taxpayers if someone happens to be sick or out or equipment's down. So we have a backup to maintain a work schedule that we're comfortable with. So I think the result of Monday's meeting was a compromise, and I think it'll help our crew and everything else to stabilize for the next few months. And we'll look at some of the information going forward for July 1st raises, but initially I think it was a good compromise.
Alan, how do you feel about this?
I think it was a right move. We've had some senior guys there, and like Carrie mentioned, it's tough bringing in qualified workers, I should say, these days at a lower rate than the guys that are already working, So this was basically to get our senior guys in par to where they should be. So the new guys are coming in at the right price. So I think it was a step in the right direction.
Bill, you saw this differently, or you tell us?
Well,
When the vote came down,
my first comment is the select board has made a decision, and that decision stands.
Yeah.
And I'm not going to try to denigrate that at all.
Yeah.
My concern is that we are sure of the factual basis. How do we compare it against the other communities with whom we compete? And we're looking. I look at it as a business decision. We have to be competitive. We have to have a good working environment, whatever, to attract and retain good people. And I don't think we want to be at the top of the list for every single category, but we certainly want to be very near it. And it behooves us to ensure that we know our market where we're competing. And we also have a big problem. The training grounds of the city public works department is kind of drying up, so we're not tapping into them anymore. We've been accused of that.
Alan, of course, being a former St. Albans City PW department guy.
You know, Richard,
Yeah.
to that point, I mean,
Makes me think of actually the city PD situation, Tim, some years ago. Wasn't that a real issue?
well, it was recently. I mean, we've altered the health insurance to
Really?
try to attract, and the health insurance is a little more expensive than what the policy was prior. We've had to do the same at the water plant to bring up wages of the supervisor to be competitive with surrounding communities. So, for my work, I share this all the time that staffing needs are not going to get any easier. They're going to get harder and harder over the next 2 decades. Finding qualified people who want to work in a declining population.
I mean, a huge issue. For your day job, you've told me that's your biggest issue pretty much.
I know Barry Calabo has 31 openings right now.
Do they? 31 openings?
Shared with me the other day.
I saw a flyer walking at the Highgate Commons Shopping Center today, a flyer looking for a corrections officer for Northwest State. Of course, noted that it was in Swanton. The poor folks in Swanton, they beat back the work camp some years ago. Maybe didn't want to have the supposed stigma of having, Swanton associated with the prison. Of course, that's the official mailing address for Northwest State. But anyway, I saw that.
Yeah, I mean,
sounds like it's just such a big issue.
and if you have good people, you are going to need to bend over backwards to keep them. Milan had 2 signs up on their fence on Lake Street that I thought it was interesting. They're promoting working closer to home as if to reach out to that market, the 10,000 people traveling to Chittenden County and points south. The city just hired bookkeeping. Was it bookkeeping? Yeah, bookkeeping or accounting assistant who did work in Burlington for the city of Burlington, lived on French Hill, and quality of life just took a immediate improvement over what she was driving, and that's downtown Burlington, so that's an hour and a half on the road every day, and now it's 10 minutes to get home up over French Hill, assuming the roads are plowed.
Right.
I will put in a bit of a
I won't
plug.
do what he can to get your accountant in there.
I'll put in a bit of a plug for the town, and not to beat up in the town of Georgia, a fine town, and certainly Mike McCarthy, a great guy, and the town administrator, but just going down Georgia Shore Road, which I do just about every day, I seem to fare a little better on the town part. When I hit the Georgia part, it seems like it's not quite as smooth, but I just see that. It just seems like everybody. Perigo, I happen to know, as you do, the head honcho. There's a friend of mine. Just seems like, boy, just everybody almost is looking for folks. So big issue. Bill, anything more to say on that issue, or?
No, not at all.
Yeah. Anyway, but you think you think you got a decent compromise out of that, Carrie?
I think we did.
And Ellen?
I don't want our crew to feel unappreciated. We really do appreciate them. I mean, they're the guys who get up on Sunday afternoon, Sunday evening, when a lot of us were watching the Super Bowl. They were out cleaning out the roads. Want them to know that we appreciate them, and we heard them.
Yeah.
And I think that did happen with a good deal of community support. So.
As we get closer to March Town Meeting Day, I should note we have one contest in St. Albans Town, and it happens to involve the person to your left there, Carrie. Bill, seems like, I mentioned this before, it seems like one of your colleagues had you retiring right about now, a year ago, when the chairmanship came up, but you're doing anything but, you'd like a 3-year term.
Yeah, they were speculating last year whether I'd be around even.
Right.
So.
Well, looks like you're definitely around.
I fooled him. I made it through another year.
What was that saying? That his recent demise was
Right, yeah.
But again, seeking a 3-year term with an opponent, Jessica Frost, who I guess is chair of the town, Parks Commission?
She is doing that right now, yes.
Right. But you'd like to stay on the board, Bill.
Yeah, indeed. Otherwise, I wouldn't run. Right.
And then for the 2-year term, Brendan Deso, again, incumbent select board member, running unopposed.
Suppose, yeah.
And Tim in the city, Tim Hawkins in Ward 1, Jim Polkey in Ward 2, running unopposed
Both
for
of them.
city council.
Yes.
And you're almost halfway through your 2-year term. Any reflections you want to share at this point on almost a year in the mayor's office?
Still learning, obviously, but I've enjoyed it. Not that I went in with any preconceived ideas as to if I would enjoy it, but it's been something that I've enjoyed. My term, as we've said many times, has been uneventful so far.
You'll take uneventful?
I'll take uneventful is good. We joke that Liz's first month on the job, they found a body in the pool. So my indoctrination has been much easier than that. But I can't say enough about the staff at City Hall. If I do get concerns or complaints, I share them, and they're usually addressed within 24 hours. So it's worked out well. It's it meshes well with my job. I think that's probably the important thing.
We talked about this before. Have you run into any conflicts, complications with your day job as executive director of Franklin County Industrial Development Corp. And mayor, or not really?
Not yet.
Not
I
yet.
mean.
And I know you said you're prepared to deal with that if something comes up.
And we've had that discussion on my board, with my board. But no, there's been nothing. It's all been a mesh. Whether I might attend a workshop on affordable housing,
Right.
and that's workforce housing, affordable housing. I mean, it goes hand in hand with FCIDC, transportation. They all go. They all are relative to both positions more often than not. So.
We noted off here, this is, I think, the shortest St. Albans City annual city meeting warning I've ever seen. Pretty much the positions we talked about, no contests. Also, 2 trustees, St. Albans Library, or 2 trustees for a 3-year term, St. Albans Free Library, 1 trustee for a 1-year term. But again, the city budget obviously on the warning, and that's pretty much it.
Yeah. So the city budget, we're looking at a 2.2 or 2.4% increase.
Yeah.
Still trying to wrap up some of the infrastructure projects, the sidewalks, curbing.
Of course, a year ago was big bond issue on sidewalks, which was approved decisively.
Was it
I think wasn't it? Was
two
it, was
years
it 2?
ago? I
Was
think.
it 2? Am I off a year?
Last year was a bond issue on the 2.5 for the construction of the building on Main Street.
Okay, and I guess also the wastewater plant was maybe was that a year ago?
Yep.
With a $19 million bond issue.
And that's moving forward well. And
So again, city budget, you're comfortable with city spending plan?
yeah, the whole council was. I mean, we worked through the budget. We thought it was fair for sure. We've addressed some areas that we felt needed to be down the road. We still have the Taylor Park project, which will probably come to fruition next year.
You haven't run into, the Burlington, I'm not even sure how they left that. The City Hall Park definitely became a pretty big issue in Burlington. You didn't run into that with Taylor Park so much?
No, not yet. I had a conversation with Merle Weinberger on that, and he said that they finally put to bed that they weren't going to open up for discussion. They've have a plan.
Yeah.
The consensus of a lot of people he spoke to and the council spoke to felt, so it was a vocal minority that was sort of stirring the pot. So they have moved that forward, and he was very thankful to get that beyond him.
Speaking of other mayors, I know former Mayor Liz Kamash would get together. I guess there's a group of we're talking 9 mayors in Vermont?
8.
8, one high. Get together periodically once in a while?
Actually, now that you we just met in Montpelier, and we had a press conference last Thursday.
Huh.
And we talked about what our platform is going to be.
Yeah.
And that included some Act 250 downtown improvements, clean water. The dispatch discussion came into play. I'm trying to think what else there was. Downtown revitalization. So there was, I think there's 4 new mayors out of the 8.
Oh, really?
So, and then Paul Monette up in Newport is up for re-election, and he does have competition for March. So there may be a transition there as well.
Drove through downtown Newport just yesterday.
So,
That's right.
so yeah, it's still, we've met twice since I've been in this position, and the consensus is we'll continue to meet and try to move some topics forward. We've had presentations on the opioid issue and how we might respond to those activities moving forward. So.
Kind of want to mention, if anybody feels motivated out there, if you're watching us live, a number 528-5315, 528-5315. Bill, you want to talk about the town budget and almost what, or any of you folks,
I'll
obviously?
let Carrie talk about the budget. I was just looking at the number.
A nearly
Carrie,
what, a
sorry.
nearly $4.6 million overall budget.
That's correct.
How many percentage increase? I assume some increase, Carrie?
The amount to be raised by taxes that we're asking for is
Yeah.
$10,000 less than the previous year. So
Really? Okay.
we're not anticipating much. I would say we're asking taxpayers to use $200,000 of our previous general fund balance to offset some of those increases, which helps, of course.
So we're talking a lower tax rate if this is approved?
Or at least maintaining a flat tax rate.
Flat anyway?
There's a few moving parts there, so I don't want to actually promise that it.
We won't know the rate until the grand list is written in stone, and that doesn't happen until April, I think.
Okay.
But the important thing is that the amount of money to be raised is, let's call it the same.
Yes.
Okay.
So the rate will be a function of what the grand list. If the grand list goes up, the rate per mill will be down, but you still have to raise the same amount of money.
Right. Ellen, any different, aside from the proposed move of the Public Works garage and the PW budget, any big changes in the budget?
Just asking the voters, we have a replacement plan for one of the trucks.
Right.
So we'll be just asking to utilize the money that's in our capital equipment budget plan.
Okay. And speaking, again, talking about the proposed new Public Works garage with the local option tax, the infrastructure tax money, will there be some money left if voters approve this?
Yes. Yeah, that's a great question because I think there's some
Some people probably think you're grabbing
misconception that
every cent of that.
That's correct. No, we actually have a pretty healthy revenue stream, so we have the cash to pay for that right now, and it gets replenished at the end of every 4 quarters.
Every quarter, yeah.
What are you getting? What are you generating every quarter, roughly?
About $200,000 a quarter.
Really? So about $800,000 a year?
Yeah.
Correct.
Interesting.
So, if we are able to do this, then we can start saving again for perhaps the town hall, which also needs to be either renovated or moved. So yeah, that's healthy. And we're also utilizing in our warning, it looks a little long, but some other little savings accounts that have been hanging around for a while. We're just going to clean them out, use them for this purpose. It's a good purpose, including impact fees and some other things the town has collected over time. I don't know how much time we have. I would like to.
You got plenty,
Oh, good,
25
okay.
minutes or so,
Oh,
plenty of
perfect.
time.
Well, I don't wanna
Plenty of
talk.
time.
You have some technology to show us?
I don't have any more technology. That's it. I'd have to call one of my
To make
kids.
you feel better.
But I would like to talk about Article 6 a little bit.
Yeah.
We actually are asking taxpayers to approve abolishing or eliminating the office of the town lister. And I want to assure everyone we're not necessarily talking about a reduction in force or letting anyone go, but in fact, we have a structure in Town Hall that allows us to hire a qualified assessor and also hire an assistant assessor. They do the bulk of the work of managing our grand list, which is perhaps our most important function because without a grand list, we wouldn't be able to get a revenue stream of taxing those properties. But by statute, unless you move and vote to eliminate that office, you have to have, or you can have, and in our case, we have 2 out of 3 people that are filling the positions of the lister board. But the lister board no longer actually sets the grand list or manages or administers the grand list in our case anymore. So this is just cleaning up something that we're already actively using, and the use is fairly, I think it's working.
And the lister position is a bit of an anachronism.
It is.
And as we go forward, assessment evaluation gets more and more complex, and they have to be correct and defensible, because we are affecting what people are going to be paying for things. So,
Is that a trend, or are some other towns getting away from elected listers?
They are actually, and we didn't reinvent the wheel. We copied this from what a few other towns have done in the past. In many cases, they do a Band-Aid, which is if no one runs for that office, the select board can appoint an assessor. This just eliminates the need for that action because we're not even using it.
I think the last time when we did our charter, we put that provision in which would allow us to do this, and this is an attempt to incorporate the assessor.
Article 8 has gotten some attention again. Proposal to authorize the select board to contribute $15,000 per year to the St. Albans Museum. for a period of 5 years. Interest to me, disclosure, I'm a St. Albans City resident. I'm not voting on this, but my 15-year-old son, Bill, who you've met, he's been a volunteer. Has really done a good job and has really gotten into being volunteering at the museum. But Bill, any thoughts on that? Is that again, was that part? Is this the first time those folks have asked you for money, or was it in the budget before? I guess I'm not.
Some years ago, we passed an article which authorized the select board to give the museum up to $5,000 a year. And we haven't looked at, I don't know how many years ago that was.
Yeah.
So that's sitting on the books right now. And their fund requirements are much greater.
Yeah.
And so they've asked the town and the city to each up their contribution to $15,000 a year. So rather than just put it in our general list of contributions, that would have been the highest single recipient. We said, let's put it to the voters for a period, see if they'll approve $15,000 for 5 years. And I assume, I hope the voters will, in fact, approve this.
So you support that yourself?
Oh, yeah, absolutely. I mean, it's a good cause and so on, but we made a mistake. Well, there's a lot of misunderstanding about this $5,000. So if this passes, as I say, I hope it will, the $5,000 that the board is authorized to do would be put on the sideline. So we'd be doing 15, 15, 15.
As opposed to 20, 20, 20.
Exactly.
Okay. Tim, what does the city, does St. Albans Museum get any money from the city?
The city had contributed in the past $10,000 a year.
Yeah, is that still there now?
No, we met with Alex and Charlie Moore and had a discussion similar to what they did with the town, and we chose to, we took the position of raising it to $15,000, and
So that's in part of the budget?
it's in the budget.
They've committed to the budget, yeah.
Interesting.
I mean, we've been, and Bill and I talked about this before the meeting last month, about it'd be nice to get the two communities on the same level. That's my personal opinion. I mean, I understand the fact that it's in the city, but I think that it brings a lot of value to all the residents in both city and town, and I think the quality of the exhibits are top notch, and I think it's an attraction for the area. It's another activity for people who visit, and I think there's a lot of value to it.
You hearing much feedback on that particular issue? You hearing many comments from the public? Anybody here? No, really.
I have not heard.
Alan?
I'd just like to say the museum actually last fall had utilized our stone house down at the Bay Park, and they did an outreach of teaching about the lake, the history and stuff of our area. And they brought in 3rd and 4th, I think even 5th grade students, both from city school, the town school, and they also did Georgia. So it is important for both communities to help out the museum, I believe, because like Tim said, it's a great asset for the community.
Unrelated issue, Alan, did you take I'm almost afraid to ask, did you take another shot at the skating rink at the Bay Park? I go by it, but I hadn't actually noticed.
The ice was great the day before yesterday.
Yeah. I actually got the material to do it. To be quite honest, we haven't set it back up. Just we've been too busy. It seems like every weekend we're either in a plow truck,
I hear you.
and then when it's 20 below, the last thing I want to be doing is setting it up. And I don't think anyone wants to be skating in that weather.
And I mean, I do my own at home, or I have done my own, and I mean, the snow came. When was the first snowfall? So that was substantial, was it?
No, November, of course. I mean,
Early
November
November.
20s, I guess,
Yeah.
or mid
20 inches in November.
Yeah, so usually I try to lay mine out throughout November and then start flooding closer to Christmas, but it just made it too difficult.
So you didn't pull it off this winter?
I didn't pull it off. No.
The Swanton folks did a nice job. I'm not
did.
sure they've kept it going every day, but on the Village Park, they had it going some of the time
They
anyway.
didn't. No, I think that's got a lot of use. They've been very happy with that.
But again, geez, weather, just again, the usual up and down weather as we speak, maybe starting to get a little freezing rain and sleet maybe, and then maybe 40 or so tomorrow, another strong cold front Friday into Saturday. Boy, it just seems like pretty tough to be dealing with stuff like that.
It is. It's quite a roller coaster of weather this year.
Well, speaking of rinks, that makes me think, Tim, again, the merger, the St. Albans City Hardack merger, is that Is that a done deal, or has it been done? Is there anything left any paperwork left with that?
That has not been a topic of discussion since I've been
Yeah.
there. So over
Oh,
the last
really?
year or so.
Hasn't even come up.
Nope.
Because there was some talk of the Hard Act folks that think about possibility of maybe pushing for a second skating hockey
Well,
rink there.
that's two different
Maybe
discussions.
Different discussions.
Yeah, there's there have been a couple different discussions at that, and then the potential for something up at the complex as well.
Yeah.
So there's I think there's need for more ice time. What that looks like, I'm not sure, but
Yeah.
there are conversations still
So-
going on with
so
that.
conversations anyway.
Yeah. Can I just jump back to budgets?
Absolutely.
You know, we look at what the town's done with theirs, no increase, we're at 2. And I think we get lumped in a lot, so when voting actually comes in the budget and the school comes in and there's substantial increase in the school budget.
Even in cases when the local school board's done a seemingly great job of keeping
Right.
their own budget down.
And then,
Fairfield comes to mind a couple of years
I
ago.
mean, my taxes that went up on my house in the city were $300, mostly school related. I think everyone was in the same boat.
In fact, I paid my city property taxes just today for the rest of the fiscal year.
So it's, you know, I think we take the brunt of that discussion, and I'm trying to make sure people understand that it's the city and the town's increases are usually minimal when taxes do go up, and I encourage people to scrutinize or to be more engaged in the school budgets moving forward, because this is not sustainable. And I don't know what we can do. I don't even know what communities can do about it when you're at the mercy of the state policies and setting the rates. So,
And typically tax rates, the municipal side is typically about roughly one quarter of your tax
20%,
bill.
yeah.
Schools about 3/4 or so. So no, that's a fair point. Any other budget? Again, we're talking a new fire truck,
Yeah, I think
ladder
the only
truck.
thing we didn't touch on was that we also have a savings account, a fire department reserve for apparatus, and we are proposing to replace our big ladder truck. So on the ballot, you'll see 790, we're asking voters to pay up to $796,000 to replace our Quint ladder with a similar size. They're both both the existing and the new one are 75-foot ladder trucks. And that we feel like we're in the enviable position of having a savings account for that as well.
So no, you don't need any extra money for that.
That is
money's-
correct,
Wow.
right. And we're going to be selling our existing Quint, hopefully for, I don't know, they've estimated it. It's always a trick, right? But just the numbers are just bigger, but we do this with our own personal cars, but we're hoping to sell that one to offset our overall cost.
Town fire department, just the department itself. Have you got enough room? Is there getting any concern that town fire department needs some more just physical space? Or again, it seems like there's been some talk in recent years about possibly a substation in another part of the town. Carrie, is that issue getting attention?
Well, we did a space needs analysis, I'd say now 5 years ago. That's on our radar, but there was no immediate need for a change or an expansion. That also doesn't have a whole lot of space there with the land around there is not necessarily all ours. But we have looked at a satellite, but we've at least prioritized, and we agree on the priority that DPW at this point is our first priority. Second should be town hall and assessing what we do with that. And then third would be to look at our fire service needs.
And again, the question I bring up, I don't think anybody else does, but any talk at all about merger of the city and town fire department? I'm the only one who brings
Yeah.
up that subject these days.
Richard,
what the Swanton
you've brought that up for 12 months. since I've been on this.
Say,
Bill-
not lately.
Yeah, and Bill and I have the same response every
Yeah,
month.
I get the same response from the good folks in Swanton.
One
the
comment
village,
about
and-
the fire department.
Yeah.
We're okay space-wise at the moment.
Yeah,
The issue going forward is where things are concentrated, and we happen to be on one side of a track. So if you have an issue with it, we may not be able to get someplace because of tracks being closed or trains and things like that. That's the potential issue, and it would be logical to look at something on the other side of the tracks as a substation. but that hasn't reared its head too much yet. But that's always in the back of my mind.
Right, gotcha. The proposed new town hall, especially if you get approval for the Public Works garage, that issue will get some increasing attention, even this year, I assume.
I would
That's-
expect
that's
that,
the next
yeah.
one. That's
Yep.
Yeah.
the two priorities were Public Works, Town Hall,
Yeah.
and so that'll come front and center again.
Okay.
I think an issue that we face, both the city and the town, is volunteerism. I mean, we do encourage and we would love more people to get involved in our boards. We're willing to train everyone. We made a special pamphlet to try to reach out to the public, but that also touches our fire department in a way too. You know, we're not turning people away at this point because it takes a significant amount of training and commitment to remain qualified to be a firefighter. So we're all going to be facing that issue and that challenge as we move forward.
Tim, big project for the city again, the proposed move of the city police department over to CCV headquarters in the downtown, new buildings, the downtown project. What's the latest on that?
Hasn't changed much, actually, Richard. And,
Yeah.
set for demolition in the spring.
So that looks like, I mean, pretty much a done deal.
Yep,
You expect
yep.
that to move forward?
There's still some minor details that need to be addressed.
Yeah.
But demolition, Main Street first and Maiden Lane second.
And again, when you say demolition of the apartment buildings across
You got-
Maiden Lane from the library, or?
Exactly, yeah.
Okay.
So that,
That's the
I think
only
that,
demolition as part of that project, or?
that's part of the housing project,
part
yes.
of the
But the
housing.
Main Street project where CCV and the retail spaces would be,
Yeah.
there's three buildings there. There's actually the green one on Congress, and then the two sort of brick ones on Main Street. We did get communication from Dominic just this week that they still have some historical preservation discussions going on
Right.
relative to those. Nothing, no deal breakers per se, but to outline what the expectations are moving forward.
Presumably not another owl club issue here?
No, I don't foresee that.
Yeah.
I think everyone's, for the most part, on the same page relative to what the quality of those buildings are, and that much of the historic value has gone by the wayside over the years through renovation, and I might say cheap renovation. So,
So you're looking, so we should see, I mean.
should see some
physical
activity
movement on
this spring and
Right.
early summer.
Yeah.
Also, on the apartments, there was 25. I know some people
Right.
have continued to move out. I believe we got notice on 3 more, and so
Well, so ideally, you'd have, most people would be obviously out of there by the time you're ready to move.
I don't know about
Ideally.
most, but you know,
At least
right
some of them.
now I think we're down to 16 out of the 25 are still there,
Yeah.
and then the city has a responsibility to relocate for a year.
Have they got, is there a date are they being told, we're gonna be?
No, not officially.
Not
yet.
an official
Yep.
date, but at least some folks have moved down.
Yes, on their own.
On their own accord.
Yep.
Back to the town. St. Albans Bay Dock, again, that got some attention. Is that another project doing some work, raising it or whatever? Again, down the road, Bill, Carrie, Alan?
Well, I don't know whether that is on the list of priorities.
Yeah,
I think that's probably fourth or fifth down the list, but
not on the
that-
top.
no, that's certainly a priority of mine. It's something to improve the whole potential recreation value for that area.
Yeah,
But let's see what there may be other things of more interest to the community, more important to everybody. So
Yeah.
it's we can live with what we have, but it would be nice to get it up to where people can use it more, and it's safe and just better quality construction.
yeah. Hearing anything about, again, the future of the old Energizer site? I realize what Peerless is using some of that, I guess, still. Hearing any, kind of for the broader future for that site, Gary, Bill?
That's a very interesting question with Tim and I both here, because then if someone asked me that, I
Yes,
would
Tim-
call
Tim
Tim
might.
and say, hey, did you hear anything about
Tim,
that?
feel free to jump in on this also.
I have not heard anything about that. I mean,
Yeah.
we're just pleased that our industrial park has been expanding the way it currently was. It's some significant infrastructure improvements, which has made us happy. That would certainly indicate they're going to stay, but I haven't heard anything about the future.
Tim, anything you can add with day job or mayor?
Yeah, the Peerless is going to be extending their lease come November for another 2 years, so there probably won't be, you won't see much activity in terms of renovations for the building. So that's the current plan now.
Is that how good a site for something else in the future? I mean, is that a good site, or would there have to be a lot of remedial work or whatever? Or?
I think there needs to be quite a bit of renovation, and I think Pat Malone, the owner of the building, has a vision for it.
Yeah.
You know, I think they want to open up, bring some natural light into it. You know, bright paint. You know, make it an attractive setting. It's a little dingy right now. So he's open, but there's now that Peerless is taking 2 more years, he's on hold again.
Yeah.
So.
Energizer at least had a plant also in Bennington. Is that still with them, or is that
And it's still there, yeah.
That's still there.
I'm not sure how strong it is, but it is
Still there?
Yep.
interesting? Any other news on the town industrial park?
Yeah, there's
plenty going on in there.
It's feast or famine on the park expansion. We have 4 conversations going on right now for 4 lots. New construction, still, Bill mentioned earlier, kicking tires and having conversations, but I would say that I am the most optimistic that I have been since we did the expansion,
Really?
that we'll see some activity in the expanded industrial park.
Really? Interesting.
So we've had, and there's interest in Swanton as well, so we've had 5 entities that we're having serious conversations with, and
Yeah.
so.
Alan, just back to town public works again. We talked about winter, just kind of up and down weather. You're kind of getting used to dealing with, is this kind of what you're getting used to in terms of, what you folks have to deal with?
Yeah, you just put your life on hold during the winter and watch 4 or 5 different weather apps. It makes for an exciting life, but yeah, we're pretty much used to it. And the guys I do have a good crew, and they're always right there when the phone rings and they're in. So, yeah, looking forward to spring though. A lot of like to get back to doing normal maintenance.
Yep, I can understand. Boy, and just with up and down, sidewalks. Boy, good luck walking these days. Just in one's driveway sometimes.
I would. Sorry, to that point, went to a Canadians game last night.
Really?
And walked.
Wow.
Walked 4 blocks.
I hear, boy, that probably
And those
wasn't
sidewalks.
fun,
Oh, those sidewalks were terrible.
I listened to CJD every day for a while, so I pay attention to Montreal. It sounds like it's been pretty tough.
I don't know, in the 4 blocks that we walked that we found a bare sidewalk.
Is that right?
There was puddles.
Wow.
There was ice. There were snowbanks. It was just miserable.
Wow.
So I was when I came back today, I thought ours weren't so bad. And it's the weather. I mean, I don't point a finger at our public.
Sure.
It's just difficult to keep up with the freezing rain, snow, warm, back and forth, and tonight's going to add to it. So it's just the nature of the beast, trying to keep up with that. I just wanted to say, I know we're running out of time, but I just want
5 minutes.
I want to commend Alan and his crew. When I look at our community, I look at it as a whole, whether it's not city or town. I just think for people driving by that Bay Park during the summertime, whether they're going to Kilcare or Burton's Island or staying at a camp, I just think it presents very well with the walking path, the softball fields, all that activity. And I just think you guys, I know you've done a lot of plantings and the planters with the stones and everything. I just think you've done a great job.
Thank you very much.
Carrie, do you want to jump in?
I just remembered something that I'm hoping people can jot down, a save the date. We are having an open house at our DPW on February 21st.
Really?
It's a Thursday from 4:30 to 6:30. We're encouraging the public to come out and walk around the yard. Alan's going to be there. We're going to have Mike Connor is going to be there. Our Pete Garso, our engineering design team people are going to be there. And we really would encourage you, if you have any doubt that we need it, I think you should come and look at it.
This is at Georgia Road.
This
Georgia
is at our
Shore.
Georgia Shore Road
At the current site.
current site.
Don't wander out on Brigham Road.
No, well, you can, but there's really
Probably
not
wouldn't
much
be a lot of
there.
excitement. Huh?
Right.
It goes back to the snow and ice
Right,
conversation
right.
we just had. There's a lot of it there. But yeah, we're encouraging you, and frankly, if you've just never been, come down and walk around, look, see what we have going on down there. We're compliant. I will say the risk-adverse part of me wants you to be sure that we are compliant. We are very concerned about safety for our employees, but the laws are such that if you significantly improve or renovate or build new, you then become compliant with the current rules. So some of the things we're talking about doing in this new facility aren't required in our grandfathered facility.
So based on the pictures that you showed, I guess I'm curious, is Alan expected to spruce it up for that open house or bring it down,
That is the
bring it down a
dilemma,
notch?
right?
Which,
I
no expectations?
I think it's as is. This
As
is
is,
an
there
as
you go.
is type of thing.
What you see is what you get.
Yeah, they haven't had time to do either. Make it look more used or.
We're talking
more-
any refreshments? I don't know, maybe get
Yes,
some
we
few
are
more,
going
few
to
more
do
people
that.
out.
Then
Yes,
I'll-
light refreshments.
I'll
a
be
tour.
down.
Please, we're gonna get a picture.
Alan, down to a few minutes. Anything? Any final comment, especially about the PW garage situation?
I'd say get out and vote, say yes.
Yeah.
These are the town assets, so if you want them to last longer and you want the roads to stay good, we gotta have the good equipment and keep them longer. It keeps your taxes down from me buying trucks every other year.
Yeah.
So get out and vote yes.
Bill, again, about a month away from town meeting, it just seems like, to me anyway, a bit of a trend that town meeting day just seems to just fade a little bit more each year. Is that me? Do you not see it that way, or so it just seems like there's just not as much buzz about town meeting
It
day?
seems, it seems
there
pretty
used to.
quiet.
Yeah,
Which
even
is
with some, in
good
your
and bad,
case,
yeah, it's,
significant stuff on the ballot.
Right, yeah. And it doesn't seem to be too much controversy.
Yeah.
And, which I guess is good. And, but on the other hand, it's bad because it doesn't, people don't focus on it. And so it's a matter of the old saw, please get out and vote and let your feelings be known. That's all I can really say is just.
And we're gonna have another
Carrie?
meeting. We are gonna have a meeting on March 4th. We don't have the traditional town meeting day, potluck dinners
Discussion and
and
stuff, right.
discussions on the floor, but we do have a meeting on March 4th. That's your opportunity to come and ask us questions. If you have concerns, call us anytime. Don't wait until then. But we're gonna go through an informational meeting on that evening, on all of our ballot items.
Okay. Tim, I know the city's got an informational meeting Monday, Feb. 25, 6:30 at St. Albans City Hall.
Right.
Again, what your quick thoughts in the last minute or so? Town, in the case of the city, the annual city meeting, it's just people voting, of course.
Just voting, yeah. It's,
But again, no contest, a big budget, but
I was thinking today, I'd be curious to see what the turnout's going to be.
what would you guess? Would you even guess like 20, or is that maybe even stretching it, or?
The November election had great numbers.
Yeah, the
as you
primary
know.
actually was more than, the primary, I guess, for my primary was about 20%, more than I thought. Jim Fitzgerald was right, I had it single digits, but.
Yeah, no.
But we're certainly not talking anything resembling any
Yeah,
kind of big
I'm
turnout.
thinking 800 to 1,000,
Yeah,
which is minimal.
yeah. But obviously encouraging people to
Oh, for
pay some
sure.
attention
Yeah,
to this
no,
and come out.
I hope to see people at City Hall. It's great to have those conversations, I'd just like to share one more thing. Alan talks about the public works.
Yeah,
As a local resident, not a town resident, I'm excited to see what the current site holds for the future,
Really.
for the region, whether it's Zach's after us, whether it's I've heard boat launch park, whatever the case is. I think it'll be, the options are great, and it'll be great to see what comes of it.
so again, folks, town meeting day, not far away, Tuesday, March 5th, so keep that in mind. Thanks. I want to thank the guests tonight for providing a lot of information. Alan Mashtare, the St. Albans Town Public Works Director. Bill Nihan, the St. Albans Town Select Board Chair. Carrie Johnson, the St. Albans Town Manager. Tim Smith, the St. Albans City Mayor.
Thank you,
Thanks for joining us. Thanks to Zach for doing all the hard work. I'm Richard Coverthwaite. We'll see you down the road on Northwest Access TV. See ya. Thanks.